Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to WrestleLine, and welcome to this very special series. This is the debut of the series of the Wrestling Trilogy. I'm your host, John Scott, and joining me for this, what is going to be an epic series, no doubt about it, is my co-host, Matt Essex. And just want to welcome everyone and introduce, really, on the first episode, exactly what we're going to be doing on this series for WrestleLine. So, for a long time now, I've been thinking about sort of doing some retrospective stuff because, you know, we always seem to have high numbers with that, and we know there's quite a big audience for it. So here we are, we're going to literally go through some of the wrestling trilogies. I think, I'll be honest, one of the things I was going to call this was the greatest trilogies, and then I thought to myself, if I call it the greatest, I automatically put myself on the spot, and I know that I'll probably get a flood of emails saying that weren't the greatest. That was nowhere near it. So what I've decided to do is just, you know, for argument's sake, we're just having wrestling trilogies, and it's a funny thing, a trilogy, because there are a lot of times where there are back-to-back matches, whether it be Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania. We've seen a few of those. We've also seen the likes of John Cena and The Rock back-to-back. But with the trilogy, the interesting thing about it is that it doesn't always end on the rubber match. Sometimes it takes a completely different turn, and I'm pretty sure in today's market, the fact that we're all used to the 50-50 booking, I think it'll always go to that rubber match, and then sometimes maybe even a draw on top of it, just to keep everybody happy. But just want to let everybody know that we are going to be covering not only WWE, but we're also going to go back into the WCW library, and we're also going to venture into the extreme world of ECW, which probably I'm going to hesitate to guess that it's probably the first time we've ever really gone into a viewing of ECW on our podcasts, whether it even be the Wrestling Skull. So it'll be a first here when we get to that. But I want to literally say to everybody, and of course if you've clicked on this episode, you'll know what the banner says. It's Big Van Vader and Sting, the trilogy from WCW. That's where we're going with this. It literally span across the 1992 and just sort of into 93 as well, this one. And we start at the Great American Bash 1992. Now, I've put it in the listings as well, exactly where to find it and what minute, and obviously the seconds that you need to be on, and of course the hour. So for those of you that are wanting to find it, of course, hit the pause button on us and go and do that. We are literally at 1 hour 53 minutes and 38 seconds, and you'll just get like a little faded picture of a very young Tony Schiavone with Ron Simmons in a very decorative suit there. Matt, I want to bring you in there to the trilogy of this first one we're about to do here. Of course, we don't really often cover too much WCW, but I thought it would be a great way to start, because one of the things we do know with our podcast here, Matt, is our listeners are, well, a lot of our listeners are big Vader fans. We know that much from the amount of support this guy got over the years on the podcast. And of course, I was a big fan of him as well, but sometimes it's very difficult to find his best work in WWE. So here we are at a stage now, Matt, where he's in WCW, and I would say I've got to be honest with you. I have not seen. I only recollect one match that they had, but for the most part, even though I did own these videos, I do not remember these at all, especially this one we're about to start on. Matt, your thoughts, and if you have any memories at all of the Sting and, of course, Big Van Vader trilogy or matches. Did you have much memories of this, or is this something that's completely new to you and you're going in cold?
It's going to be quite new to me. I think when I was younger, around this time, I would have been, if I was seeing anything, it was going to be involving Hulk Hogan. Right. He was the cartoon character, like, what larger than life, the way that he was. But yeah, for me, WCW, it wasn't really something I had a lot of access to. So everything that I have seen of WCW up until, say, 97 was looking back on VHS tapes and that. So it would be good for me to see this, because it sounds like a match that I should know more about. So I'm going to come into this quite fresh, actually, thinking about it. And it sounds quite interesting, because it's a good matchup from the sounds of it. I mean, definitely contrast the styles, and it's good when you see it for the first time as well, because you don't kind of know who's going to win and which way it's going to go. So I'll be interested to see how it all pans out.
Absolutely. Now, before we start this and kick this one off, I should have literally told everybody about the whole how we're going to do this between myself and Matt. So literally we're going to kind of like score these matches. We're going to do what we normally do with a 5-star rating after each match, and we're not going to take it too serious, so I don't want people to get hung up on what we give it, but also, and then at the end of the trilogy we are going to give it, like, between ourselves, what rating of the 5 stars we thought the trilogy was. I think some trilogies in this series are going to be epic, some of them not so much. I'm pretty certain of that, but it'll be interesting to see how well this does. So literally on the count of 1, people, we are going to hit that play button. So on the count of 1, so 3, 2, 1, and here we go. So yes, the traditional WCW ring. This is like my nostalgia memory of WCW. That ring, the way it's set up there, the blue, for me. Now look at this entrance here, Matt. This gimmick of what Big Van Vader is wearing here, because again, a lot of people from the WWE will not be familiar with seeing Vader in this. This was all from New Japan. This was what he was playing in Japan, and basically Jim Ross saw this guy and said, hang on a minute, we've got to get this guy back to the US. And the first big feud he was involved with was actually with Ric Flair at Starrcade, and this was sort of like post that now, and now he was sort of going into the realm of WCW, trying to get himself, as the big monster heel, as over as possible. But we've always spoke very highly of Vader, Matt, as far as a big guy worker, and so he was extremely, I would say, agile for his size, Matt.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting that ring gear now seems to be shooting steam out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Seems like quite a substantial piece of kit there.
Yeah.
The amount of stuff they put into his entrance. So
kind
it's
of,
good to see that they brought him in with intent here. They're giving him some funding behind him.
Yeah, again, like I say, it's all from New Japan. It was a great gimmick. Now, this match, by the way, I should let everybody know, this is a strap match. So this is what we're going to get with this one. And here, Matt, this is absolutely, for me, nostalgia. The Sting, this is the Sting. Like, if anybody, I know some people are huge fans of the Crow. This, for me, is the Sting I remember and I kind of adored growing up. Just being a young kid, I had the figure of Sting, the one that you couldn't move for love nor money. It looked like he was just going to swim all the time because his arms were up in the air. But yeah, this was the Sting I remembered, and he was like, I mean, he wasn't like, I would say, the company poster boy all the time, but he, at this point, Matt, he was very well known. I think even across to people that weren't watching WCW, all kind of knew who Sting was, because his face was everywhere. In like the toy section, I remember you had the WWF toys and you had the WCW ones. Sting was always at the forefront of the WCW figures.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a hell of a mullet on that ref.
Oh, wow. I didn't even notice that you just said that. That is quite the hairdo of the... It's probably like predating that era as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sting, it's definitely a eye-catching look, isn't it? I mean, there were so many people with that kind of physique and that kind of... But he stood out with that face paint straight away. Yeah,
absolutely. And came in, of course, the tag team with the Ultimate Warrior. And look where those two guys went off at the end. Pretty crazy, I would say, all that much. So here we go then. It's like I don't know what's going on here. It's just like a test of strength at the minute, I'm guessing, to a degree on this one. I'm also
to give the edge of that to Vader.
Yeah, I'm also guessing this isn't the strap match that I thought. So I don't know if that's coming up, but I completely got this wrong. So I just want to throw apologies out there. Just goes to show how unplanned we are with this one. But Vader. Again, I mean, it goes to show you how big and tall Sting is, because like up against Vader, he's kind of his height. on this, and Vader, like, what I liked about Vader compared to the WWE Vader is the fact that I wasn't a huge WCW fan, don't get me wrong, but I think in this match, I'll go as far as saying I think they treated him as the big man worker, like the big guy, the dominant guy. I think he got a lot more of the rub here than what he would in WWE, whether it be politics with Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam and all the rest of it. But I certainly feel like he was a bigger deal in WCW, really.
Yeah, and rightly so, isn't it, really? Because you just said he came from Japan with, sort of a big following, and he was successful there. So if he can do it there, and and people did know about him and what he's about, why not carry that on? I mean, just look at the guy. He's physically imposing. He's a scary guy. And they were saying at the beginning of this match, when 448 pounds. That is a lot of dude.
Yeah, absolutely. The guy's carrying a lot, isn't he?
And I just noticed just then Jim Ross as well is at ringside.
Yeah,
Is that
he
right?
was still there now. Now it's funny because
that's a long old career as well.
Yeah, 92. He was out like a year later. He was in WWF, debuted at WrestleMania 9 in the Caesars. The whole gimmick that they did there. So what a kind of turnaround that was for him. I think it's worth pointing out as well, this is a time in WCW where, wow, that was pretty cool there, where they were literally kind of just coming out of the NWA and becoming WCW, but it wasn't quite Eric Bischoff time yet. This was still very early days. And people say this wasn't a great time in WCW, like the years between like 91 and like 95 were stale, but I actually think there is some golden gems in all this. And I do think it gets overlooked sometimes. I suppose a little bit like when we go back to the WWE days, like of say 97, everybody says that wasn't a great year, but there are some gems in that year for sure. It's just, I think a lot of people probably concentrate on the ratings too much and who was winning what at the time, because at this point I would say WWE had the upper hand over WCW for sure. But I mean, you can see here, Matt, that Turner is getting more and more involved. Harley Race, by the way, is Vader's manager here. For anybody that was checking that out, looks like the era of the mullets as well, Matt. There's another one going on Harley. I've never seen him with a mullet, so it's another one.
I'm surprised how much of an even match this has been. I thought they would have done it so that Vader was a bully and sort of throwing him around, but Sting does a good job of making it believable that he can hang in with this guy. That's one thing he always did so well, was making you believe that he could get so fired up that he was anyone's equal.
What's funny about, like, when you go back to these ones, Matt, is like the referees, the attire the refs used to wear, like the bow tie, the shirt. It looked more like what I would say like a classic like boxing referee would wear of today. Still, I think that's what they went for. But now they obviously everyone goes for that traditional. Whether you're like whatever promotion you are, it's always that black and white stripes. Nobody really goes for this look anymore. I'm not sure when that phased out. I know there'll be somebody out there that can tell us.
I think they went for a while, didn't they? WCW sort of stuck with the sort of bow tie and shirt for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Sort of WWF was the one that sort of brought in the stripes, weren't they?
Now let me ask you, Matt, what was your favourite Sting character? Was it this one, or the bleach blonde hair, or was it the Crow?
It's so weird. He's one of the wrestlers that was the best at reinventing himself. Every character he did was a success, really, and it just shows you the different points of his career, doesn't it? This one, then to the Crow one, like you said, then there was the red one, and then there was the weird Joker one, wasn't it? In TNA.
Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, I feel like I'm with you. Like, this one was the hero to get behind. I mean, his other sort of personas were a lot darker, and sometimes was hard to actually tell whether you should be cheering for this guy, because his look, even if he was sort of fan favourite or the face, his look kind of betrayed that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. So far, I've really enjoyed this match, but it, like Matt said, it's been back and forth a lot more than I thought. And I guess, look, we know we're obviously going to get another 2 matches out of these guys.